Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin, and for today's video we are going to be doing my fall TBR, all the books that I want to read for this fall season. I'm super excited to share them with you guys. I went back and forth thinking about like how many books I wanted to include in this video because in my summer TBR I felt like I was really ambitious and had over 20 books on my summer TBR, and now that summer is coming to an end, I can't even tell you how many books I actually read from that list. So we are keeping it realistic, we are keeping it intentional, and we have, I think, about 14 books for my fall TBR. I spent a little bit more time and thought when choosing these books, and there's so many books that I want to read for fall. I really thought about what are the books that I want to prioritize and what are the books that when I look at my bookshelf and I'm thinking of my next read, even though I'm such a big mood reader, when I'm thinking of my next read, what are those books that I want to pick up more just because they've been on my bookshelf for a long time or I really want to get into them. So I was kind of intentional with choosing the books more so than I was with my summer TBR. I literally just was like throwing books and I was like, I think I want to read this, I think I want to read this, and look what happened. Read maybe like 2 of those. So I'm really excited for today's video. I have my books right here. I have my water. We're gonna do a lot of talking. I have my beautiful little video in the background. Hopefully no commercials come on and like mess up the vibe, but I am such in a fall mood. I live in Florida right now and it is not at all fall season. It's probably not gonna be fall until like October, but that's okay. I'm going to celebrate fall right now. So if you are interested in seeing the books on my fall TBR, keep watching. Let's get into the video. I have like 4 major categories and genre of books that we are going to split this video up into. So the first one, of course, you guys know I'm a romance girly. I had to include some romances. So the first 4 books are going to be the romances that I want to read for this fall season. The first one is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I actually have read a book by Renee Carlino before. I read Swear on This Life by her, and that book, first of all, I don't read books in one sitting, and I read that book from 12 a.m. to like 8 a.m. the next day. No, that's not right. I read that book from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. in one sitting and I just could not put it down. It was so captivating. It was so amazing. I bawled my eyes out crying. I literally recommend that book to anybody and anyone who wants a really, really good romance, and I've been dying to get into another book by this author. I feel like this book, it's not too long, which is really good, but also I've heard really, really good things about it. I'm not too familiar with what the story is about. On the back, it says that it's a misconnection, a second chance at love. These 2 people met 15 years ago. It was a misconnection, but now it's been over a decade later and I guess they're going to catch up and have a second chance at love. So I'm really excited to read this. The next one I have is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. And this book, I have seen everyone cry. Everyone says how sad this book is, and I have tried so hard to steer away from any single spoiler or any single like inclination as to what this book is about, just because if people are crying when they're reading a book, I don't want to know anything about it because I want to experience the crying when I read it, and I feel like if I go into it not knowing much about it, then I can experience that as well. So I have literally no idea what this book is about. If he had been with me, everything would have been different. Autumn and Finn used to be inseparable, but then something changed or they changed. Now they do their best to ignore each other. Autumn has her boyfriend Jamie and her close-knit group of friends. Finn has become that boy at school, the one everyone wants to be around. That still doesn't stop the way Autumn feels every time she and Finn cross paths, and the growing, nagging thought that maybe things could have been different. Maybe they should be together. And as time passes, Autumn realizes she might not get another chance to make things right before it's too late. It says it's hypnotic writing, a sweet, authentic love story. So I don't know why, but I feel like I thought someone died, but I don't think that's the vibe I'm getting anymore now that I read the back and I'm thinking about it again. I know that there's a second book coming out with these same characters from, I think, the guy's perspective. So I believe this is told in Autumn's perspective if I am correct. So anyways, I'm really excited to get into this one this fall. I feel like it's going to just be so good, and I really like the cover. Like, I wonder if there's like some significance to lollipops. The next book I have is probably the book that I am reading next. Like, I'm still reading Yellowface. I know it's taking me some time to read it. It's a good book, but it's just taking me a little bit longer to get through it. But I'm almost finished with Yellowface, and the second I put Yellowface down and I'm done with it, I am picking up The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, because this book has been everywhere. I've literally seen everyone and their mom talking about this book. Everyone is crying when they're talking about this book. This book is some of people's like favorite books of the year. Like, I've seen nothing but 4 to 5 stars being given towards this book, so I'm super excited to read this. I also know that this is a little bit of magical realism, which I don't read too much about, so it's going to be really fun to see what the author does with this story. From my understanding, there is a young woman, her life kind of isn't going in the direction that she wishes it was going. She moves into her late great aunt's apartment, and in the apartment she finds a man living there, but he's living 7 years in the past, and she obviously is not 7 years in the past, but when she's in that apartment with him, they're living 7 years in the past, but when she leaves the apartment, I believe she's back in the present moment 7 years in the future. So it's going to be very interesting to see actually how this plays out and like what relationship they have, what relationship they build, what their story is going to be. I want to know why people are crying so much. Are they crying because it's a sad ending? Are they crying because it's a happy ending? It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful connection. I don't know. I'm really excited and I'm really intrigued. Literally in so many videos, I'm like, I want to read this. I'm going to read this one day. I'm going to read this. Babes, today's the day. I'm reading this book. It's happening. I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm so pumped. Like, I can't wait to read this book. And then the last romance, I think this is a romance. I'm sure this is a romance. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is a romance more than anything else, but it's The Regrets by Amy Bonifons, and this book is so funny to me for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's because when I was on Goodreads, I saw this girl's review and she just said ghost smut, and I was like, you know, that's enough for me. I'm intrigued, but I don't know if this book is actually funny, like if it's like humor at all. This book is really interesting to me because it is about a young girl and she sees this really attractive guy at the bus stop for over the course of a couple of weeks, and I guess she goes and talks to him, comes to find out he is a ghost who is trying to cross over, but unfortunately he cannot cross over until he completes this 90-day kind of challenge or quest or whatever the case is. But in the challenge and quest that he must complete in 90 days, he cannot fall in love with a human being. He cannot have any type of human kind of relationship or connection, because if he does, that there will be regrets that will be collected and they will have consequences. Obviously, the two of them fall in love, they build that relationship, they have some type of love story, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to form, just because I don't know how it's going to be written, and like what are these consequences that are going to come in place now that they're breaking this rule that he cannot be involved with a human being. I'm really interested and I'm excited to read it because I think it's going to be a really good one, and I feel like it's the perfect transition into the fall time because hello, ghosts. So those are the romances that I have selected for my fall TBR, and now we're going to get into, I guess you can say this is like classical fiction, literary fiction. They don't really fit into one specific genre, I don't think, but I have two books for that. The first one I have is James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. So this is the first book that I will be reading by James Baldwin. I have a lot of classical literature sitting on my shelf that I am just not reading, and I need to read it, and I don't know, sometimes I get intimidated when I read classics just because I'm afraid that I'm not going to understand. You know, high school AP Lit kind of scarred me a little bit, but I want to get into it, and I've heard so many amazing things about James Baldwin, of course, and I've heard so many amazing things about this book, and I feel like this is a really good book to start with. So this is set in the 1950s. A young man finds himself caught between desire and conventional morality. With a sharp, probing imagination, James Baldwin's now classic narrative delves into the mystery of loving and creates a moving, highly controversial story of death and passion that reveals the unspoken complexities of the human heart. So this is a novel of unique emotional intensity and exceptional beauty, hypnotic, intimate. It's a portrait of a man torn between a woman and another man, groundbreaking for its time. It remains a transcendent novel. So this has been raved about. It's a classic, and I'm so excited to read this for the fall time. And then with that, I have Mame by Jessica George. I love this cover so much. Like, I'm obsessed with it, but I have seen so many people talk about this book. I literally feel like every book that I end up picking up is because I see people talking about it. But I mean, hey, I am chronically online and I'm chronically on a bookstagram, and I see people talk about books, I see people rave about them. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna go buy them. I feel like this is a book that I'm going to connect to a lot, and I'm going to really be able to relate to our main character as we go into her story and we go into the themes that this book is going to discuss. So we have Maddie, our main character. She lives in London and she has a mother who spends most of her time in Ghana. So Maddie is the primary caretaker of her father, who suffers from advanced stage Parkinson's. At work, her boss is a nightmare, and Maddie is tired of always being the only Black person in every meeting. When her mom returns from her latest trip to Ghana, Maddie leaps at the chance to get out of the family home and finally start living. A self-acknowledged late bloomer, she's ready to experience some important firsts. She finds a flat to share, says yes to after-work drinks, pushes for more recognition in her career, and throws herself into a bewildering world of internet dating. But it's not long before tragedy strikes projects, forcing Maddie to face the true nature of her unconventional family and the perils and rewards of putting her heart on the line. Familial duty and racism to female pleasure, the complexity of love, and the life-saving power of friendship. Most important, it explores what it feels like to be torn between two homes and cultures, and it celebrates finally being able to find where you belong. I feel like this book is gonna make me cry. I'm gonna feel so seen when I'm reading this book. I feel like it's gonna be a really good one, and I can't wait to read it, and I'm excited! I'm excited about this. I'm getting so excited now that I'm like looking, not that I haven't been looking at these books for a couple of days, but I don't know, I'm just so excited that I'm finally like, this is what I'm gonna focus on. The next group of books I have are, of course, your typical fall reads, your mysteries, your thrillers, your horrors, all of the good stuff. So I am going to tell you right now, I don't read this genre of books. This is not my genre. I don't like to be freaked out. I don't like to be scared. I read at night, and I cannot read a mystery, thriller, any of that type of genre at night. So I'm really going out of my comfort zone with these books. But I did do a reading vlog where I read young adult mystery and thrillers, and that was supposed to prime me and prepare me to read more adult and more intense mysteries and thrillers, and I hope that was successful, but we'll see. So I have 4 books with me here. The first one I have is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This is a psychological thriller about gentrification of a Brooklyn neighborhood. So it is Rear Window meets Get Out in this gripping thriller. Okay, I don't know what Rear Window is, but I do know what Get Out. Haven't seen Get Out, but I understand the idea and themes of Get Out. So I'm really excited to read this. Also because Alyssa Cole, I know she writes a lot of romances, and I always find it interesting when authors write in a genre that's not what they typically write in. So I'm really interested to see how her writing is in this as well. The next book I have is Verity by Miss Colleen Hoover. Now listen, I know some people don't like Miss Hoover. I'm cool with her. I've read a good bit of her books, but I have not read Verity. And similar to Alyssa Cole, Colleen Hoover writes mostly romances, so this is definitely a step out of her typical genre that she writes in. So this is a romantic thriller, and I'm really excited to read this one as well. So Verity is about a struggling writer, Lowen, who is on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. So when Lowen arrives to the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started, she doesn't expect to uncover the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. So page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. So Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to I did not... So you're telling me the romance is an affair? So you're telling me this girl is trying to help this author out by finishing her book or her series, but instead of doing that, she is having an affair with her husband. Am I reading this right? Okay, well this has just got a little bit more interesting to me and a little bit more messy. This is gonna be fun. The next book we have is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. Now this one, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm probably the most petrified to read. This is a psychological thriller, but it's also been talked about as a horror novel, and horror just... Do I look like somebody who reads horror? I can barely read a young adult thriller. What business do I have reading horror? I don't know, but I have heard so many good things about Tiffany D. Jackson. Anything that she writes, people just rave about, and I'm trying to branch out, and I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone, and I'm trying to try new things. I'm trying. This is me trying, okay? So this book, all I know is that it's really scary. It's about ghosts. She's being haunted, our main character, and that's about it. That's all I want to know. I don't want to know too much about it because I feel like going into it, I should go into it blind as much as I can. So I'm excited, but I'm scared, and I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And then the last book we have, of course, is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This book is about a woman and her dog. Don't be scared. Nothing happens to her dog, allegedly, but it's about a woman and her dog, and I believe she is a blogger of some kind, but she reads this author's work and she doesn't like it. She leaves a not so positive review on a blogger website, a review website, I guess something similar to Goodreads, and then the author is now stalking her and coming after her, which we love, especially in this day and age. We love that. I'm scared, but I'm also really excited. At least I'm trying to be excited. But I've heard really good things about this. It's suspenseful, it's scary, it's a thriller. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So those are all of my thrillers and mysteries and books for spooky season that's coming up. I don't plan on reading any of these books until October. I'm gonna do a whole reading vlog reading them so you can see how petrified I am. And it's going to be a challenge because, again, I don't read those books at night, but I feel like night is when I read majority of my books, so it's going to be really interesting trying to find time to actually read them. So it might be like weekend reading vlogs because I don't know if I can read this during the night time. I won't go to sleep. So now the last genre section of my fall TBR is the one that I am most excited for. I have not read a single fantasy book other than Bloodmark at the beginning of this year, and I definitely feel like my reading has just been feeling empty because I haven't been reading any fantasy, and I feel like what better time to kickstart my fantasy era other than fall, or no other than fall, you know? So it just makes sense. So I have quite the selection of fantasy books, and I'm super excited to get into them and share them with you guys. So the first fantasy book I have is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This book has been on my bookshelf for the longest time, and I have tried picking it up multiple times, but I've just never been in a good mood to read it, and I want to be in a good mood to read this book because so many people have talked about it. It's the start of a new series, and I don't need to be starting any new fantasy series, but I don't care. I don't care. Here I am anyways. I don't know what number we're on right now for this series. Like maybe I think she's on book 3, but I heard that this starts off more of like a young adult fantasy, and then it kind of slowly becomes with the second book more of an adult fantasy. So that's going to be really interesting, kind of seeing how we go from one genre to another like that. From my understanding, this book is about witches and devils. So we have our main character Emilia. Her and her twin sister, I guess, are really close friends, but there are also witches living amongst the human world trying to go unnoticed. And then one day her twin sister does not come to dinner. She comes to find out that her body has been completely butchered, she has been killed, and now Emilia is pissed off and she is trying to figure out who did this to her sister. So I guess she strikes some deal with the devil or works with the devil or one of the devils, I don't really know. One of the princes of hell, not a devil. So now she strikes a deal with one of the princes of hell that she has been warned against in tales when she was a child, and as he claims to be on her side, I guess things are not what it seems. And there is some betrayal, there is just a lot of angsty, tension, romance, witches, devils, shapeshifters. It seems really exciting. I'm so excited to get into this world. I feel like it's going to be perfect for fall. The cover is also pretty cool. Now, the next book I have is Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the second book in the Children of Blood and Bone series by this author. I know the third book I hear is coming out towards the end of the year. I don't know the date exactly. I saw on Goodreads it said September, but I don't think that's accurate. And then I heard somewhere else it might be December, so I don't know when the third book is coming out, but I just know that I have been putting off reading the sequel for a really long time, and I just need to put on my big girl pants and read the sequel. I think a part of the reason why I have been putting it off is because so much happened in the first book that I have to go back and try and figure out what happened. The first book was super intense. Tomi Adeyemi writes such a compelling fantasy, and I absolutely loved Children of Blood and Bone so much, but it's been so long since I read it, so I have to kind of familiarize myself again with the world and the characters and the plot points before I jump into the sequel. But I do know that the sequel is something that I do want to prioritize for the fall time, especially when I know that the third book is coming out very, very soon. The next fantasy I have is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. I believe this was the spin-off series from the Cruel Prince trilogy, or the Folk and Heir series, if you will. I read The Cruel Prince a couple years ago, and I absolutely adored it. Carden and Jude, I love them. I love them so much. So I saw this at Target and I was like, I have to get it. I have to get it. It is in the same world as the Cruel Prince trilogy and the Folk and Heir series, but it's with different characters, but the characters are related to the characters in that world and universe, if that makes any sense. I'm really excited to read this. I have not read another book by Holly Black in a minute. I know she's had some other ones, but none of them have intrigued me as much. I'm just obsessed with Jude and Carden and anything related to Folk and Heir. So when I saw this, I was like, I have to get this. I have to read this. I'm really excited to read it. I think it's going to be so good. I just love the way that Holly crafted that world and that universe, and the way that it was such a beautiful balance between really good world building and storytelling and like politics and all of that stuff, but also it had a really subtle romance that didn't like overtake anything else going on in the story, but was done so well. The last physical fantasy I have is A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a thick book right here, okay? I have been putting this book off just as I have been putting off the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I loved the first book in the Blood and Ash series. I enjoyed the second book. The third book really threw me off, and after that I was like, you know what, I need to take a step back from this series. Now this is the prequel to the Blood of Ash series, and I am trying to figure out where I am right now because we have the prequel series going on, but we also have like the Blood and Ash series going on, but they're also going on like, I don't know if they're going to like combine. I have no idea. I'm actually very, very confused as to what Jennifer L. Armentrout is doing with all of that. But this is the first book in the prequel series, and my friend Logan said that I had to read it. It's so, so good, and I've heard so many people really like this, and I really, really did love From Blood and Ash. I really liked it, and I don't know what happened, but it just got really repetitive, and those books are too long for them to be as repetitive as they were. But I want to give it another shot, and I really want to read as much of the series that I'm a part of and try and finish all of the series that I am a part of, especially when it comes to fantasy, because I hate leaving them kind of like not finished. I'm gonna give this one a try. I'm gonna see what it's about. I'm gonna see if I enjoy it. And if I do like it, then maybe I will read more From Blood and Ash and give it another try. Maybe the fourth one is not as bad as the third one, but girl, it was not giving. So those are all of the books on my physical fall TBR, but there is one more book that I'm really excited to read for fall, and it is another fantasy, and it is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And I don't physically have the copy because I'm waiting because I'm on a book ban right now. So I will get it maybe next month in October. I cannot wait to read Fourth Wing because, first of all, the way that this book was so difficult to find for months. I've just not seen a book become so hyped in such a short amount of time. It was the most fascinating thing to see the rave that Fourth Wing was, and the fact that like this next book in the series is coming out this year, I'm just blown away. But the reason that I want to read this book so bad is that it's about dragons, and the last book I read about dragons I did not love. I actually gave it 1 star, and I feel like I would like Fourth Wing based off of what people are saying. It's a fantasy romance, and I feel like fantasy romances are kind of like my thing as well. Like I love fantasy on its own and I love romance on its own, but obviously like those are my 2 favorite genres, so when you kind of like put them together, I'm gonna love it. So I have really, really high expectations for Fourth Wing, which I'm gonna try and bring down because, you know, don't want to go into it with too high of an expectation and then be like utterly disappointed. But I'm excited to read that one for fall. So these are all of the books on my fall TBR, and I am so excited to read all of them. I think it's going to be such a good fall season. I have so many exciting reads to read, but also I'm just so excited to just get into a new season. Fall is one of my favorite seasons, and I'm really excited to read these books. But that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give this video a like and to subscribe for more bookish content. Please let me know if any of these books are on your fall TBR, or if you've read any of these books, how did you like them? And I will see you guys in my next video, where I am probably going to be reading some of these books. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!